So the poet who we do have, who's going to read, who's flown from Adelaide, is Jill Jones. Jill Jones' most recent book is Dark Bright Doors. She won the Kenneth Slessor Prize in 2003 and the Mary Gilmore Award in 1993. In 2009, she co-edited with Michael Farrell an anthology, Out of the Box, Contemporary Australian Gay and Lesbian Poets. Jill lives in Adelaide, and she first worked, different roles and guises and personas, but with the Red Room in her role with the Australia Council, where I used to go to Jill for various sorts of advice about how to convince people that a poetry company was something serious that could exist, and it does still, sort of. When I say that, in that the Red Room exists in your mind first and then really wherever else. And Jill worked, as I said before, with us on the Fingerprints poem with your poems that were written on bookcases, which were also subsequently displayed in the Australia Council walls, and then a window. And then a while ago for Arts Law Week, we were asked to have a poet present at Arts Law Week, and it was the most absurd experience from memory. We had to go up to one of those like huge lifts with, you know, goldfish walls looking out onto the beauties of Sydney, and we were preceded by this sort of crazy opera singer who got up on a weird little stage in a weird little room and sang really loudly, and everyone was really, really drunk. And then Jill got up and read these beautiful series of poems to this audience of arts law people who weren't, I think, quite sure what the whole thing was about, but the poems were absolutely beautiful. So you can read them in their full on the website. And Jill, I'll let you read your poems and talk a bit more. Thank you.
A bit hard to see up there, and I've got dodgy knees, but yes, I got to know the Red Room Project both as a poet and also as an arts bureaucrat, which I luckily am no longer. Yeah, and it was quite a bizarre event, certainly, at that arts law thing, and I don't really think they had any idea what was going on. The poem, or the extract that's in the little Poems to Share box, is part of a sonnet, which is part of a series of sonnets which I call 6 temperamental sonnets, and they are. And I'll read all of this one sonnet called Luck, which contains, in a sense, a series of questions, but it goes on to do other things, and then I'll just read one or two things about sharing and about questions. Okay. Luck. Is it enough to possess such things, the equivalent or the local? Is a leaf enough to translate its world, or will a pressure of wings enslave the beholder in fervent, continuous mouthing of enigmas, less intelligent than elephants in summer mud? Longitudes, Mediterraneans, species, now is the hour for a poetry of remarkable absences. Therefore, take an inch of an antidote for the extended and zealous flashes of the white man in heat, while we hunger for the original sap within the rock. Whoever has the lucky ticket should leap into what's left of each wave and tree. You can see what I was being temperamental about. The poem begins with questions. There's another poem of mine, quite recent, from that latest book Jo mentioned, and it interweaves a question or a few questions throughout it. It's actually a very long sentence question. And I wrote it originally, now I live in Adelaide, and watching the news with all the helicopters coming in from the remote communities, particularly Indigenous communities, in South Australia, when people were rather worried about swine flu and the results of that. But the poem's obviously about more than just that. It's called All Night, All Night. Under erratic stars and sirens raising us out of our beds, the emergencies, the virus spreads, how it ends like a story, who knows, through the grids, through the planet's ways, under the sway of the dark lit with passages. The lake fills up north, the plains bring in more of those are dying. We are filled with facts, queries, nothing so certain as each one's fear. What will befall? What will all of this become? A plague of our making, or something we would rather not done? But rise above the plain, ancient in misery, to find a place, divest the hurt. Who knows what has ultimately been undone under polypropylene, bad miming of the original sunk coasts, swarms of blue fish, the white, the green, the real school so long for the learning, under clouds, but still now the sirens squealing, and we must hurry along in our caring. These bodies of ours, kiss them while the world is tearing all night, tears all night from the north and from the Gulf into here, past here. Who will ask where it comes from? And just finally, on the idea of sharing, I've also been involved with another group of poets called the Diverse Poets. And one of the things that we've done, and I've done this in many other ways as well, is to respond to other artworks. So it's a kind of collaboration or sharing of that process. And so, and also in a sense of the cento and appropriation maybe, and I think it's a great idea what Kate's doing, is a poem I wrote responding to a painting by Sidney Nolan, but it also appropriates something that he wrote in a letter to his then wife. It's called The Tree Within. Here is the deep, cloud catcher, water in sky, where rapture drowns branches. How we're marked by the dream of colours, the interminable and desperately beautiful. Light comes and goes, not as flame, but illumination, prism of a place. Your breath part in air depends on earth, not heaven, the tree within and below. The sky, a state of mind. Today it is exact and triumphant, blaze of the white dark. Thank you.